Hello folks, welcome to the Tech channel. We continue on JavaScript tutorial using FreeCodeCamp website. Let's continue on the next challenge where we stopped in previous lesson. So move on to this tab. This is where we stopped in the challenge. 61 is asking us that now we can clean this function. So we don't need this console log. And also we don't need this console log as well. And now that we are returning tests inside this function and we do not use name parameter, so we can remove it. As you see, that is grayed out. And here also we don't need to pass this argument because we are not using a parameter anymore. And let's just then check your code. Congratulations, still your code is working. Just submit the changes and move on to the next challenge. And he is explaining as well, so because the parameters are not being used, so that doesn't do any change if after we remove them. And as well as asking us now to remove the return and also the test variable and leave the function as default as previously, just to return undefined. Let's just remove this both. And now if we call the function again, congratulations, your code is passed, and submit the changes and move on to the next challenge. And here explaining again, the function is returning undefined and that is expected, and so there is no any point to call the function because it's just return undefined. We don't need to assign it to a variable, so just remove this variable from here and remove the call as well for this console log and check your code. Congratulations, your code is passed. Submit the changes and move on to the next challenge. In this challenge, it will explain that now, for example, you need to generate a list of rows, and each row need be repeated a specific number of times. So to do that, we can declare or update the current function that bad row to have two parameters, one row number and second one row count, so to know which row we are in and how many times should be repeated. So that's asking us to update this function to have these two parameters, first one, and also to separate more than one parameter, so you can use a comma between them, row number and row count, and check your code. Congratulations, your code is passed. Submit the changes and move on to the next challenge. In this challenge, explain as well about what you can return in the function. So in the function, if you remember previously, we can return a value or a parameter. So in this example, name a function returning the parameters. And for this challenge is asking us to return character repeated row number times. As if you remember also, there is a repeat method of the string type. We can use it to repeat string many times of a specific number we give to that function, for example, or to that method. And to do that, we need first to call return keyword to return a value, and then we call character, which this variable declared here on the top, which is a string. As you remember, also the string basically will be declared using double or single quotes, and then the method which we call repeat, and then we need to give the number of how many times should this string to be repeated. For now, we don't know the specific number, so we'll pass the row count. Then this row count will pass later argument as relevant to this parameter. So but for now, just let's pass that row count and check your code. Sorry, there is a wrong mistake. Let's see what's wrong. Row number instead of row count. So character.repeat.row number, and check your code. Congratulations, your code is success. Submit the changes and move on to the next challenge. And in this challenge also is explained as well, you can call a function to allow you to access another function. This example here called test function, how to call a function by call the function name and then adding this parenthesis at the end of it. This is how you can call a function. And or this example is asking us to replace this character.repeat inside push. Instead, we can remove this and we can push actually the function we declared in the top called bad row. This function here, calling the function name, then using parentheses. This function already is created here, and then just check your code, submit the changes. Congratulations, your code is passed. Submit the change and move to the next challenge. And in this challenge as well, if you remember, we declare this function called bad row. We pass two parameters, and we called this function here inside this for loop, but we did not pass any argument to be displayed here to be used as a parameter. So this is still undefined, and instead of that we is asking us to pass, instead of the first parameter, row number that's supposed to be I+1, and then add a comma for the second argument or second parameter value here, this row count. We can pass count, and this count is coming from this here, from this the count, the number. This is a global scope variable, that's why we can access it inside this scope of this for loop. So inside this object bracket or curly bracket, so this is called scope. Now check your code. Congratulations, your code is success. Submit the changes and move on to the next challenge. And in this challenge, it will explain now we can use the concatenation to add empty space before this return variable, and after to have a perfect pyramid shape. So to do that, so let's just add here empty string and then plus, and inside the empty string let's add a space, and same let's add it after. Add plus, then empty string, and just check your code. Congratulations, your code is passed, and submit the changes and move on to the next challenge. In this challenge is asking us to use the repeat method for this empty space. As you see here on the left side we have the empty space, and also on the right side which is not visible, but instead of only this two space here, we need to use mathematical operation as mentioned here to be something similar to look like this one here. And to get that, we can use the row number or row count minus row number repeated time for each space. And to do so, we can use the same method, this dot repeat. This still is a string, empty string, still is a string, has a method dot repeat. We can use dot repeat method and then call parentheses to call this repeat method. And inside then we'll call row count minus row number, and same at the end here to this second space. And now if we check your code, boom, congratulations, your code is passed. Submit the changes and move on to the next challenge, and this is going to be last challenge on this tutorial. And in this challenge, I will give you some logical steps here and mathematical operation. For example, if we multiply 2 by 3 plus 1, which would be same if we pass just directly 7 to this test function. In the same logic, we need to do that for the repeat method of that string character by multiplying 2 by row number minus 1, which in the first time will give this 2 space on the left and 2 space on the right, and next line will give us 1 space on the left, 1 space on the right. On the next line will not give us anything, basically will be a 0, will repeat nothing, and then that which should give us a good shape would look like this one. So to do that, basically we need to just copy this value here to the character here. Let's go to the character dot repeat instead of just row number. Add that here, and as you see that now we have perfect pyramids shape. So let's check your code. Congratulations, your code is passed. Submit the changes and move on to the next challenge, which 71, and this is going to be on the next tutorial. Thank you for watching, and see you on the very next tutorial.